Good evening. Welcome to Northbeat. I'm Megan Roberts. Fort Smith's Salt River First Nation Council has been divided by infighting. And now 2 members of council are refusing to step down after a federal court judgment. It's the latest development in a dispute that's lasted over a year. Carla Ulrich joins me now to walk us through this. Carla, what do we know about the current situation?
Well, 10 days ago, a federal judge ruled against Acting Chief Bradley Laviolette and Councillor Kendra Burke and says they did not follow the election code when suspending the newly elected chief. Tony Herron was chief for only 7 days in September 2022 before Laviolette and Burke moved to suspend her and then kept moving to suspend her every time the suspension ended. The judgment also reinstated Herron as the elected chief of the Salt River First Nation and upheld its special meeting that was called by Herron, where members voted to remove Laviolette and Burke as councillors.
How did Laviolette and Burke react to this judgment?
Laviolette and Burke have refused to step down. They are saying that Herron is causing confusion to members, and they are now trying to remove Herron as chief. And they've called a special meeting scheduled for April 4th.
Carla, what do people in the community think about all of this?
Well, former Chief David Putra says he doesn't understand why Herron was suspended in the first place, and then why they continue to suspend her without going to the membership for a vote. Putra also says members are frustrated and they want the fighting to stop. He also wants to see the judgment upheld. Take a listen.
Well, my thoughts are they have to let go and try to get this settled, because the people have been waiting for this judgment for quite a while, and the judgment's been made and it still goes on, so that's not right.
I did reach out to Laviolette, Burke, and Herron, but they were not available to comment.
Thank you for your work on this, Carla.
Thanks, Megan.
The cost of living continues to rise, and in some Yukon communities, food prices are soaring. In smaller communities, some consumers have told CBC they're paying almost double what people pay in larger centres, and that's making it hard for them to choose between paying for food or paying their bills. Take Watson Lake, for example. A jug of Tide laundry detergent at the Super A is $45.99, as you can see there. That's almost double what it costs for the same thing at Whitehorse's Walmart, where it's $21.49. It's the same story with coffee. $15.99 for a tin of Nescafe coffee at Whitehorse's Superstore, $25.99 though for the same item in Watson Lake. Watson Lake's mayor owns the Super A, and he says those higher prices aren't meant to gouge customers. They simply reflect the cost of doing business.
We have one truck twice a week, and we pay entirely for that truck. Also, a big part of it is volume. Those stores are moving such large volume of most products that they're able to work on smaller margins in order to keep their stores open, and they also work on the margins based on a national business, not independent.
Irvin says anyone who feels the prices are too high should speak to him directly. He says nobody should have to choose between eating a meal and paying their bills. A new exhibit highlighting the importance of water for people in the Northwest Territories is now on display. Through painting, sculpture, and print, people can see how water unites us all. Mahnor Mubarak has that story.
Images of water, people harvesting fish, and canoeing. These are just some of the art included in the Waterways works from the museum art collection. The exhibit is on display at the Prince of Wales Northern Heritage Centre. Sarah Carlock is the director. She says there are many different cultures in the territory and that water is a commonality.
I think something we all have in common is spending time on the water, going for walks on the ice, and often eating fish and other seafood together. So it's really a nice uniting theme that's fun to talk about. Yeah.
The exhibit has a number of different themes, including harvesting, because water provides food and communities come together around it.
You can see these paintings, women have a big role traditionally in helping with the harvest and cleaning the fish and drying the fish in this piece here. I really like this tapestry here because it's such a animated scene with lots of people doing lots of different harvesting, and you have the difference between people fishing there, and you can even see underwater, and then people pulling the fish and then moving, people also fishing with a spear, and then up at the very top, they're the women who are moving the fish up to the drying racks.
Another theme that the exhibit includes is iceways, showing how frozen water is a means for transportation in the north. It includes dog sledding, a skidoo, and people trekking over ice. Watercraft shows how boats and canoes fit into the lives of those in the NWT. And rough ice shows the different textures of ice during different seasons. The theme of journey includes a philosophical piece that Carlock is drawn to. The painting gives a bird's eye view of a person in a canoe. She says it represents a spiritual trek of the artist from the known of their life to the unknown of their future.
He's clearly moving from a rocky area to, an area of deeper blue. And again, I like that kind of symbolism. It's a really nice image.
The grand opening for the exhibit was held today at the center at noon, and the exhibit will run until the fall. Mahnur Mubarak, CBC News, Yellowknife.
A mining company in the NWT is making an attempt to revive a toxic Yellowknife lake. This summer, Rio Tinto plans to install an aerator in Frame Lake and then in the future, reintroduce fish. Right now, it's known as a dead lake. There haven't been fish there since at least the 1970s, and it's not safe to swim in. It has high levels of arsenic, and decades ago, sewage and tailings got dumped in there. Nutrient buildup on the lake floor has caused oxygen levels to plummet, but an aerator could restore the oxygen levels. It'll also help Rio Tinto meet its environmental obligations. An Arctic weather satellite touted to deliver accurate weather forecasts for northern communities has passed most of its testing. The satellite belongs to the European Space Agency, but it'll deliver weather information for all communities in the circumpolar region.
Typically, for the rest of the world, we have a different type of satellites that are called geostationary, that sit by the equator, and they're able to watch us every 5-10 minutes. But their visibility stops at about 60-degree latitude. So basically, the Arctic and Antarctic regions are invisible to these type of satellites.
Weather information will be delivered to national meteorological offices like Environment Canada. Final tests for the satellite are now underway, and it's expected to be launched into space in June. Congress says it'll take several weeks after launch before the satellite comes online. A project bringing high-speed internet to Kivadluk communities has received federal funding. $2.8 million has been given to the Kivadluk Hydro Fiber Link project led by the Nukik Corporation. The goal is to connect 5 Kivadluk hamlets with Gillam, Manitoba through a fiber optic line. Northern Affairs Minister Dan Vandal made the funding announcement in Calgary. Construction on that is expected to begin by 2028. Canadian Arctic waters and Inuit Nunangat have been designated as an emission control area. This means there are tougher measures in place and ships will release fewer harmful emissions into the air. The Inuit Circumpolar Council supports the decision. Its vice chair says black carbon emissions from shipping doubled from 2015 to 2021. Black carbon has been linked with health issues such as respiratory and heart diseases, cancer, and birth defects. Measles cases are rising globally and here in Canada. At least 31 cases have been reported so far this year across the country. That has many Canadians looking to get vaccinated, but higher demand for the vaccine is leading to fears of shortages. And as Lauren Pelly explains, the shot may be unavailable even if you try to pay for it.
Really just trying to keep my family safe.
Brian Harvey asked his family doctor for a measles shot before his next work trip.
And was told to go to a travel clinic and basically pay for it myself.
Those shots can cost around $75 at private clinics. Even so, this company, which operates out of Ontario and Quebec, says recent demand is unprecedented.
Typically, because we don't give out as many, we don't carry as much. Now, as we see the trends going on, we've started to load up a little bit. But a lot of vaccines are reserved for the public sector. And so
They're now trying to stock up.
there are concerns that from a private sector perspective that we're not going to be able to procure enough.
That's because the two major drug makers supplying measles vaccines in Canada have both posted shortage alerts this month. Merck and GSK each say it's thanks to higher demand. While private vaccine suppliers could be impacted, Health Canada assured CBC News that the companies can still supply public immunization campaigns, such as routine vaccines for children. Even so, some family doctors say they're being cautious with their vaccine supply as well.
We have to be judicious. We have a resource that is limited, and we have to be thoughtful in the way that we use it.
We're not actively reaching out to everybody in our practice. You can imagine how overwhelmed family medicine would get if we decided all of a sudden to just focus all of our attention on everybody's measles vaccine status.
But with measles cases rising in March break travel destinations like the U.S., even more Canadians could be asking for a shot. Lauren Pelly, CBC News, Toronto.
I
Priya doesn't love exercising, but loves the way it makes her feel. Max doesn't love cooking, but loves homemade meals with his kids. Paul doesn't love doing his taxes, but loves getting the benefits and credits he qualified for. Learn more about benefits and credits like the GST HST credit and Canada Workers Benefit at canada.ca/every dollar counts. A message from the Government of Canada.
I will not forgive failure. God has chosen us as a new broom to sweep the Vatican clean of corruption.
What would you like to do with your life? I'd like to be an international star.
Are you a hug?
You're crying.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are.
Well, God will take his revenge then.
Yes, he will. With our help.
What does it take to reach the top? Join me, Ian Hannamansing, as I get to know some truly inspirational people who share the secrets of their success.
If you want to talk about one moment, it's a moment where I would live or die.
It changed everything on CBC News Explore.
Moments that are so on trend right now. Ticket pricing, artificial intelligence, being a Swiftie, wild fashion trends, showbiz, and cancel culture. Join me, Alameen Abdul Mahmood, for Commotion, available now on CBC Listen or wherever you get your podcasts.
Sipping on a bit of Henny, can I get a little Remy? Feeling heavy, chilling but I'm feeling ready. Pulled up in a big old Chevy.
Using Indigenous and scientific knowledge to tackle issues like climate change, biodiversity, and food security. That was the goal of a recent Indigenous Knowledge Symposium hosted by the Vatican. A small group of Indigenous people from across the world gathered in Italy for the symposium, including a representative from the Fisheries Joint Management Committee. Herb Nakamayak is part of the Fisheries Joint Management Committee. He joins me now to tell us more. So you just got back this week from the Vatican from that conference. Tell me a little bit more about the conference and what you were doing there.
Good evening, Megan. Thank you for that. So this conference actually is a symposium. It's Indigenous peoples' knowledge and the sciences. It's basically hosted by the Vatican. Having, with the inclusion of Indigenous knowledge and science working together, of course, and it's basically combining traditional knowledge and the sciences for resilience to address climate change, biodiversity loss, and food security and health, hosted by the Pope and the Vatican.
Tell me how you got involved with this conference and also whether this is something that has happened before, specifically through the Vatican. It seems like a pretty unique venue for this conversation.
Yeah, we were, a bit surprised. We were myself, Dr. Brenda Parley, and also Dr. Mary Abubakar, who we are part of the AirMap project called the AirMap project, which it's basically 150 projects globally that we co-host, co-lead with Indigenous peoples around the world. And we were selected, one of a group of very few individuals, I'd say under 80 individuals that were selected to attend this conference through the Vatican. Also, the Pope hosted us Friday morning, and gave us some opening remarks, and also this workshop was meant to help the Vatican draft a statement to the rest of the world, asking countries to work with Indigenous peoples, and also to scientists to work with Indigenous knowledge holders and Indigenous peoples around the world.
That seems like a pretty significant outcome of this conference. You know, the Pope has a very wide audience across the world. What did you think when you learned that that was kind of the impetus behind this conference, was for that statement to be put out?
Well, at first, mixed feelings with a residential school, but at the same time, remembering what this call is for, for myself and our organization at Fisheries Joint Management Committee, as well as Inuit Circumpolar Council, we work a lot with governments around this world that don't necessarily include Indigenous peoples or recognize Indigenous peoples, and mind you, include Indigenous knowledge in the work that they do, where for us in our region, we're very fortunate in this part of Canada and the world, where we utilize our knowledge system to make decisions and governance decisions, and also recommendations to our mother organizations like the Inuit Regional Corporation, ITK, ICC, and all those that are involved in the work that we do and support.
Yeah, why don't we talk a little bit about what's going on in Canada, because there used to be quite a pattern, as you well know, of Southern researchers kind of parachuting into the North, doing research, leaving, and the communities might not hear much about it. So in terms of breaking that pattern with not only the organizations you mentioned, but also, the researchers themselves, where are we in terms of more collaboration between researchers and Northern communities and organizations?
Yeah, well, Megan, I can speak on behalf of FGMC for that. For FGMC, for Inuvialuit, our land claims is this year going on 40 years, and Fisheries Joint Management Committee was born from that land claim, so it's basically the longest standing co-management body in the country, and we like to think that we're number one because we have a combination of scientists and knowledge holders working together to develop a research platform. And this day and age, all across Inuit Nuna, the research is controlled by Inuit, and we ensure that relevant researchers are coming up to do work on issues that matter to us, especially the food that we consume there. You talk about Arctic char, you talk about seal, you talk about whales, and caribou, and other those are all main staples. And we do research on all of those species that to ensure that the health of those species are an indicator of health of ours as Inuit and as Indigenous people. So scientists have seen that trend, that the work that we're doing is quite successful in our region, and they're catching on. And also these days, scientists are coming back to our knowledge holders to confirm, some of their data and their work before they publish it. So we're making headway. It's taken a long time before even people like myself and others who come into the picture, but we're there to ensure that that trend continues.
And just kind of through the lens of this conference you were just at, are you also seeing more international opportunities for Indigenous experts to share their knowledge globally?
There are major platforms, and sometimes they come out in conferences where I would say, for us at Inuit Circumpolar Council, the platform of the Arctic Council is one where we can definitely demonstrate the work that we do and the competency of Inuit, and Inuit are scientists. Our knowledge systems have been there for a long time. Another example is a Central Arctic Ocean Fisheries Agreement, where Inuit Circumpolar Council is the only Indigenous group that have been in the negotiations of that, and now we're developing these scientific coordinating groups, and also Indigenous knowledge is being worked there. And it's the first time in history that Indigenous knowledge is on the same platform as science. So We knew that our solid knowledge systems have been there for a long time, and science has been there for only a number of years. We basically look at it this way. There's 10 million scientists in this world, and there's 2 billion indigenous knowledge holders. And, you tend to think that the 2 billion, you're going to listen to the 2 billion people rather than the 10 million.
I mean, that's such an important way to frame that, because there is that traditional, historic, kind of ingrained knowledge that knowledge holders have. Just thinking about that 2 billion knowledge holders across the world, how would you like to see those knowledge holders continue to be honored and recognized on scientific stages all around the world?
Well, I think, if there's a message coming like this from the Pope and the Vatican, then obviously there's a strong need for that to be recognized in certain parts of the world where, as I mentioned earlier, we're very fortunate. But I like to, when it comes to a standpoint of indigenous knowledge, it needs to be on a platform on its own and not just as a bullet point or a footnote, but actually recognized as a system of its own that has been actually, thriving, and also, and that's one of the reasons why indigenous people has been able to survive in some of the harshest conditions where nobody else really could in this world. It's all because of the knowledge.
Herb, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with us and telling us a little bit more about this conference you attended at the Vatican. I appreciate your time today.
Thank you, Megan, and hope you have a good weekend and appreciate the time.
The 44th annual Yukon Native Hockey Tournament continues to take over Whitehorse. Hotels and parking lots are filled with supporters and players, and as Maria Tobin tells us, it's a weekend full of community.
The fans are cheering and the fries are served. All signs of the energy at day 2 of the Yukon Native Hockey Tournament. Piled into 2 Whitehorse arenas, it may just be one of the city's biggest weekends of the year. And it's all for the love of hockey.
Just light it up a bit, get some skating in.
56 teams are here from all across the north, with a total of 99 games to be played. Organizers say it's as much as a reunion as it is a hockey tournament.
Their faces light up when they get to play in front of their parents and their grandparents and, their family and friends. So it's just like, that's what makes it kind of worth it for me.
For one small Northwest Territories town, it's an honor to be on the ice this weekend. Paulatuck is competing in the tournament for the first time. Some of the players' wives even beaded their own earrings in team colors.
Pure adrenaline.
Was it nerve-wracking?
Oh, yeah, it is.
Opening ceremonies kick off this evening at the Takini Arena, with the tournament wrapping up this Sunday. Maria Tobin, CBC News, Whitehorse.
It's also a big week for hockey in Rankin Inlet. The Terrence Tutu Memorial Senior Men's Hockey Tournament is back on the ice. Games started on Monday, and they are drawing teams from across the region. Noel Kalujak is at the tournament and tells us more.
The Terrence Tutu Memorial Senior Men's Hockey Tournament is back on the ice, drawing teams from across the region. 1,100 tickets are expected to be sold and are being sold at a rapid pace.
I'm excited. It's going to be some good hockey. A chance to win a snowmobile and a couple door prizes.
After the pandemic, the tournament picked up hype again, and everyone is excited to watch the game. Barney Tutu is very happy, and his whole family is excited, and everyone in Rankin is really looking forward to the games to start again.
Hopefully, everything goes well in town here. And same with all the guys that are going to be playing hockey. Hopefully, everything runs smooth, and the guys will be meeting up with new guys, and hopefully, a lot of friendships will come out of this. And next year, it'll probably be bigger, and you never know, they might all be back.
12 teams vying for the cup, and some players and fans came in by snowmobile from other communities to attend the hockey tournament. Jordan Tutu is back in Rankin Inlet, his hometown, signing autographs and also taking part in the tournament. Last year, Jordan Tutu's team won the A side. This year, he's coming in with a different and younger team. While on the B side, Team Todd is trying to win its third tournament. They got off to a good start with a win last night. Noel Kaludjak, CBC News, Rankin Inlet.
And that is Northbeat for tonight. For news anytime, go to cbc.ca/north. We leave you tonight with a moment from an Indigenous Language Revitalization Conference in Edmonton. Some attendees gathered to sing O Canada in Cleachel. Thank you for watching. I'm Megan Roberts. Have a great weekend.
O Canada, Gonek e agunt e wegoneto duhaso hagiwo godzeda negatseda edzane dunade hazo gotso O Canada neganatsesa good e windy nezitseda O Canada neganatsesa O Canada neganatsesa.
What happens when we transform the country into one massive obstacle course? 20 total strangers are about to find out.
Okay, game on!
Relationships will be forged and crushed.
I want to rip their heads off.
In an all-out battle for glory.
Oh my God! I'm glad that there's cameras around. Yeah, me too. Do it in, replay.
Only one thing's for sure. They are not ready for what's coming.
Let's go, baby!
So good.
Please be careful.
I'm excited, dude. Me too. We're back with Crime Scene Kitchen. It's a bold choice.
Yes, honey.
It's a very straightforward recipe. This is going to be an absolute showstopper.
That's what I'm talking about right there.
Woo!
Yeah. I murdered a donut.
That's a crime scene.
I'm such a fan of this show.
Listen to the podcast, Q with Tom Power.
The story itself is so unbelievable.
The industry wasn't set up for me to thrive in.
The presence I feel now is not something that I believed to be possible in the past.
So many people thought I couldn't do it. They doubted me.
I felt like I ripped my whole heart out.
I didn't realize how formative 25 to 30 would be.
I have to kind of repress my own self-doubt.
You're one of my favorite interviewers, so I was pumped.
Get out of here.
Q with Tom Power. Available now on CBC Listen or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hello. Dad is the master of marketing.
So handsome, both of them. How big is my face? Bigger.
Dad's a superstar wherever he goes.
2, 1.
Go back to
Daddy marketing works.